It's a new year, which means it's new store anniversary miniatures time, and we're going to start with Brakki of the Gilded Key, and it's a Fyreslayer hero. Clearly a Fyreslayer hero. What else could it possibly be? This one is essentially an Auric Runesmiter, and to be fair, he does look quite cool. This is effectively an alternative Runesmiter that you can get instead of the one that's normally and generally available throughout all the years, whereas of course this one being store anniversary, it's a limited release thing, and overall he looks pretty decent. I have to admit, I have already seen a few people like, oh good, another version of an on-foot hero. We were totally lacking those. We were really lacking those for the Fyreslayers. We're having a real issue with just not having that many to choose from, which of course is extreme sarcasm because the entire army, apart from like 3 things, is on foot and they have so many heroes, it's unreal. But when it comes to the store anniversary stuff, just an alternative model, I don't know, I think that's okay, it's alright. They could have maybe gone with something a bit more interesting overall, but the model itself is cool. The cloak is excellent. The fact that it's still got the scales and stuff from the creature, what it was made from, is kind of fun. I really like the axe. Like the kind of key hole in the axe looks awesome. Also got some nice flame engraving on said axe. That's really fun. The helmet is not personally to my taste, to be honest. There's something about the middle strip, the bit that goes down over the nose, whatever that's called, whatever the technical name for that is. I don't know, it doesn't look quite right on this guy, and I couldn't really tell you why. Also, he's got some horns coming up from above the brow section, which would be cool if you could really tell that they were horns from the front. Now from the side, they look like horns. From the front, you've just got these big bulky bits of metal that are kind of sticking out in a weird V shape, and it's not really doing it for me, to be honest. It's fine, I guess, but I don't know, there's just something that doesn't look quite right about it. It looks like a weird low poly crown from the front, except you've got the classic mohawk going down the middle, which kind of confuses it a little bit. I don't know, I'm not particularly sold on the helmet itself. The rest of the armour, what little armour they wear, looks fine, and the beard is of course absolutely glorious. So many braids, so many plaits, so many different trinkets hanging at the end of each rope of hair. I actually really like the beard a lot. It's just the helmet that he kind of drawn up to doesn't quite match in terms of how cool it is. The key he's holding is fine. It's a cool little trinket, but I do like the fact that it very much looks like the key he's holding does fit into the axe that he has. That's kind of fun. Also, the big brazier thing that's on the head of the axe, that's awesome. Mind you, that's a consistently cool thing about the Fyreslayers. They've got a lot of that stuff going on, and it never gets old. It always looks good. Not a bad looking model. It looks fine. I think it's just the fact that there is such a distinct look to Fyreslayers that something has to be really, really crazy to break out of the mould. And obviously you want a cohesive look across an army. You don't want something to look completely wild and out of place. But for Fyreslayers, it goes too far into everything looking too similar for me personally. And this, I think, kind of suffers from that problem. Entirely subjective, of course, but then most of what we talk about is, so whatever. Now, of course, the Runesmiter was for AOS, obviously. This is the one for 40k. This is called Invocation of the Elements. It's a T'au Ethereal. And you know what? It looks pretty damn cool. Something you will immediately pick up on, I hope, is the fact that you've got this little urn, right? This little urn. And you've got multiple options as to which cast is represented through said urn. You got water, you got earth, you got fire, you got air. They're all represented. That's really cool. Being able to have that option as to which one you want, that's a really nice touch. It's only a little thing, but I don't know, it sort of makes the model feel extra special. Now, admittedly, my knowledge of Tau symbolism is not as good as it could be, so I'm assuming that the big old staff that the Ethereal is holding has a similar thing going on in terms of the different shapes representing each of the different casts. It is just quite a cool, weapon? Staff of office thingy, what you hold so people know how important you are. I do like it overall. It's this interesting mix of, the haft looks fairly sort of technological, but then the end kind of seems like the sort of kind of carved obsidian that you might expect from the wizard lizards from AOS. I quite like that. It's interesting. It's fun. I've also got a bit of cloth coming off that staff, but I have to admit, I'm not 100% on board with the cloth coming off the staff because it's extremely angular. Where it's snapping and moving in the wind, it's super angular, which is kind of, I don't know, it's just sitting wrong with me. It just doesn't look quite right. It's as though someone kind of went, well, I mean, we need some angles on the T'au, and this is mostly robes, but you don't need to make the cloth look angular. It wouldn't look that sort of straight in sections, I don't think. And it's especially kind of affected by the cloak, because the cloak is another instance of like cloth next to those strips of, I mean, it's either got to be some sort of cloth or paper, but either way, you have other sort of flowing material near it that isn't exhibiting the same properties. Same thing with the robe. The robe is very flowing and very organic. The cloak has got a few straight lines, but it is nowhere near as severe as that kind of ribbon that is coming off the staff. And so it makes the ribbon coming off the staff just look a little bit odd, a little bit not quite right in comparison to all the other examples of a similar material right there. The actual cloak and the robe look really cool. They flow quite nicely. I quite like them. The big collar is kind of cool as well. Again, it sort of looks fairly like technological, but then all the robes and stuff underneath are just simple cloth material. So I like that kind of contrast that's going on. It is a fun model. It's pretty cool. I do like it a lot. We've got a bit of tactical rock stuff going on, which, you know, we could do without. We could do without tactical rocks all the time. Although it looks a bit more like, I don't know, like maybe sort of lava-y. That being said, the pose is pretty good, and it does convey a sort of sense of both authority and like almost a bit of mysticism going on at the same time, which is very fun. Weird angular ribbony bits aside, overall, not bad. So there you go, those are the 2 store anniversary models for this year. Let me know what you think of those in the comments down below, and I will see you for the next one.